Hello, this is Michael Wojcik with the Rochester City Council update for October 3rd, 2016. Some interesting stuff today, a full slate of meetings. We had the committee meeting, dinner meeting, and then also the regular council meeting. And biggest thing in the committee meeting is we discussed the development process a little bit. And we've had this criteria, I affectionately refer to it as the Mack-Hamilton criteria. And what it basically says is you have to actually build what you get approved when you go through a special process like incentive or restricted development. Why do I call it the Mack-Hamilton process? Well, he was probably the person more famous than anyone else for getting something approved and then right away figuring out how he could cheapen it up as best he could. And finally, after so much frustration, we just put a clause in saying that no, you actually have to go back if you're making changes to the appearance of the building, which I think is a good thing. Now, conversely, there's a lot of times that changes are needed, and that does mean they have to come back. The issue is that a lot of, at least though, and we seem to be rubber stamping the changes anyways, but staff had recommended they wanted to have some ability to approve minor changes on their own. And what we settled on is we're going to assume all changes are major unless staff can meet certain criteria to indicate that it's not a major change, which is fair. I mean, ultimately, when you go through an incentive or restricted process, you're supposed to be held to a higher standard, and frankly, you're supposed to have your plans ready when you submit them. And the thing is that hasn't been happening, and it's not all developers. There's two or three entities in town that seem to be the persistent violators of this. Nice thing is that we're going to go back and we're not going to weaken that standard too much, and we are going to maybe make some criteria where certain things can be changed. But if it's just cheapening up a building, doing the things just to basically save money like what they did at 501 First, that would be the kind of thing that hopefully will still have to come back to the city council. Transit, a very exciting thing. I've been working on this for a long time with Julie Workman and the school district, but we approved one half of a contract to basically study providing transit to middle school and high school students through the city transit. And what that would do is potentially save a ton of money between the school and the city, but also enable a later start time. Everyone was supportive of the proposal. I mean, there's obviously a lot of logistics with that, but it did pass 6-1. Mark Hickey was the exception. He didn't feel that a later start time was justified because the after-school activities were critically important. Needless to say, I would stand with the research scientists and say that let's get our kids starting school at a more reasonable time. And it is going to go through a process now where by the end of the first quarter of 2017, we should have a report back on the feasibility of what we can and cannot serve. And if this is feasible, it's a huge win for the entire community. Not only that, but there'd be the potential of having the staff from the school district be able to ride this. And also, kids getting around after school, perhaps that their bus pass is useful for them in the evenings and on the weekends too. I mean, it's something to hopefully address the opportunity gap in the community as well. Huge upside to this. The cost of the city is $21,000. The cost of the school board is also $21,000. Really excited to get this moving forward. Really appreciative of Superintendent Munoz and Julie Workman from the school board being patient with me and attending some meetings with me over the last few months to get this thing running. But I'm really excited about this. I think it's a big win for the community. Another big win for the community, affordable housing project moving forward in southeast Rochester, the site that is currently the Wicked Moose. Once again, our ugly 1970s planning and zoning and land use and comp plan reared its ugly head, making what should be a common sense type project incredibly difficult. Basically, we're talking about putting affordable housing in a location that currently is not used to the fullest potential. It's good access to transit, good access to bike trails, access to all the services somebody might need. I mean, you couldn't draw up a better location to drop in some affordable housing, and reasonably high quality product that's going in there as well, about 135 units or so. And but the process was very convoluted because of the challenges that our existing comp plan and zoning did. Fortunately, we were able to work our way through it, and I actually did the rare thing where I asked to take a recess in the middle of the meeting because I wanted to reread some documentation just to be sure of what it was that I was suggesting and make sure that I was factually correct in my findings. And we did end up moving it forward. forward. And the other exciting thing with that project is I hinted to the developer during the meeting that I'd really like to work with him and use our property assessed clean energy loans to figure out how to do some substantial energy improvements at this project for hopefully basically no cost to him. It's a great program. I'd love to have somebody pilot it. Basically, you're paying back these improvements with energy savings over some number of years. And we just need somebody to pilot it, show us how it's going to work, and maybe this is the project where we can start to demonstrate it. I'm excited. He already actually followed up with me, and I put him in contact with staff, so let's hope we get a PACE success story. Down by the interchange that's being built at Mayowood Road and 16th, there's a change to that special district. Basically, there's a change that's going to enable a hotel to go in there. Decent urban design. I mean, I think it's quite suburban there anyway, but at least the building fronts on 60 or has a side against 16th. It's permeable. It's got some windows and doors overlooking 16th. There's the potential of a restaurant there. It can have a drive-through. I think everyone's kind of hoping at this point it doesn't have a drive-through because it becomes a lot more attractive site, especially for pedestrians if it doesn't. And where the parking lot does go up against the walkways, at least there's some buffering there. So it's as good as I could have hoped for given the plans for the area. And lastly, been obviously dealing with a lot of frustration with the city council just unable to move things. So we did in the committee meeting, we moved ahead the preservation ordinance. We're going to have our public hearing on that 2 weeks from now on October 17th. That's something that's been sitting around for a long time. I basically thought that what staff brought to us was just fine. It met the, and I'll keep reviewing it with folks, but my intention is to have the public hearing on the 17th, and I suspect I'd probably be ready to pass a strong preservation ordinance that night. We'll see where the majority lands, but really looking forward to getting that off of our plate. And then the other one is Uber. How about Uber? It's been so maddening, just the games that are being played. And I don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes, but I kind of, there are some well-connected folks in the taxi cab industry here in Rochester, and some of the recommendations coming are just silly at best. And we had a memo from the city clerk basically saying, okay, 3 options going forward. We could do nothing. We could allow Uber to come in like other cities, or we could come up with a hybrid approach, which forces a TNC to come in and be subservient to somebody with a taxi cab franchise. Well, gee, I wonder who came up with that suggestion, huh? Bottom line is, after seeing no action for a few weeks, I finally just said, you know what? I'll make a motion to direct staff to execute option number 2. That's basically let us implement Uber like other places, and bring that ordinance back. We might talk about it at the committee meeting next week or the week after. Key thing here is it's going to be coming forward, and we're going to basically forced to vote on it tonight. It ended up going through, actually, in the end it went through 7-0, but there was some concern. But if we talk about it at a committee meeting, that's great, but we could possibly vote on enabling Uber as soon as the October 17th as well. So a couple things have been hanging out there for a while, and got a little frustrated and lit a fire under folks, and now they're moving forward. So those of you that are interested in possibly having Uber as an option here in Rochester, I would encourage you to contact your city council members. We're taking a look at St. Paul and Minneapolis's ordinances, which basically set what the guidance is for Uber drivers, and that's no need to reinvent the wheel here. It seems to work okay there. So I'm excited for it. I'd take a hard look at possibly losing a vehicle out of my household should Uber be available, and just going with Uber and bike. But I'm excited for it, so a lot of good stuff happening. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.